Hey everybody, it's Alex Abrahantes. Welcome to Wrestling with Cruises. Super excited for this particular edition because I have an opportunity to talk to someone who has such a fascinating career. And this is what I love about this particular show, the fact that I get a chance to talk to not only super passionate cruisers or people who work in the industry, but people who I've had the pleasure of meeting on different ships, different inaugurals, thanks to Norwegian Cruise Line. And this person is a prime example of that. We met on the Norwegian Joy inaugural, which sailed out of Vancouver, Washington. And at this point, it is all a blur. I can't even remember when it was. I think it was back in November, if memory serves me correctly. But no, I think that was the Bliss. I don't know. They all blend together at this point in time. I have a hard time keeping track of what month and day it is at this point with all the craziness that's going on. So anyway, let me tell you a little bit about her because I'm really excited to be able to have her share her story because I think it's fascinating and she's doing some amazing stuff here. Especially during, this time where the world has completely changed. So she is an incredible content creator. She's created over 200 travel videos. She is an award-winning concierge, and you're going to hear all about that experience. And her handle is Ask a Concierge, so you want to make sure to follow her on her social media channels. She's also a travel expert and has been published in a variety of different magazines. And we were just talking about the fact that she was on the Kelly Clarkson show, and she's also a contributor in Good Day LA, which is super cool. And she's got some great experiences. She's doing some amazing things and is busier than ever, which is absolutely something that in this day and age to be able to say is really kudos to the amount of work that she's putting in and the ability of her to just kind of shift gears and make things happen. So let me go ahead and bring her on the screen here. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Sarah Dandashi. Hey, Sarah, how are you?
Hi, doing well. How are you, Alex?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to reconnect with you because it's been such a long time. Now, do you remember when the Joy inaugural was? Because I, for the life of me, can't remember right now.
Yeah, I think Joy was actually oh gosh. No, it was
18?
last April.
Wow. Yeah, that's right. So it was
Yeah,
April of 19 or 18?
2019.
19. Okay.
2019.
It all blends together. We were
It
talking about
does,
how we both did the Bliss, and I think the Bliss might have been in November. Is that when you
correct.
sailed on the Bliss?
Yeah,
Okay, great. I'm getting my
correct.
timeline back. It's all coming
Oh, I
back. It's all
love
coming back. So anyway, listen, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to be able to have this opportunity to chat with you because you have such a fascinating story. And yes, we're going to talk about cruising. And I'd first love to start talking about how you got into being a concierge and then eventually how that got you into cruising because you have a fascinating cruise story, which I think a lot of people relate. A lot of folks out there may have never been on a cruise before, and then they took a cruise and then they kind of became hooked, right?
Very much so. And that certainly was that's my story when it comes to cruising. But a little bit more of my backstory as far as in the world of concierge and what that is and what that means. So just to bring people up to speed, if you don't know what a concierge is, typically they are the person at a hotel. You're more of like a mid-level luxury type of hotel that is your liaison to the city. They are the person that might help you with booking tours, how to best navigate the city. If you're looking for tickets to an event or something, they are your go-to person for restaurant reservations, what to eat, see, and do around the city. So I have done that for over 15 years, and I have also worked in hotels for almost 20 years, crazy to admit. And so that's really as my backstory in regards to the hospitality and travel industry. And then a few years ago, I ended up bringing my love for film and TV and creating content and videos, melding my two worlds. And as I like to say, I went beyond the desk, beyond the concierge desk, and I was all of a sudden able to reach travelers that weren't just there in the lobby, but people that were either coming to Los Angeles, even Angelinos as well that were looking for things to do. Naturally, I'm based in Los Angeles. And then that's evolved. And now I've been able to work with brands, travel brands around the world, covering destinations and then also experiences like cruises. So that's actually what brought me to cruises.
That's pretty amazing. So your first cruise experience was
Uh-huh.
an inaugural on Norwegian Cruise Line. And just to kind of fill everybody in, Norwegian Cruise Line will send a variety of different influencers, people from the travel world, travel agents, so on and so forth, on inaugural sailings, which are when they unveil new ships, because they want us to experience it and be able to share it with our followers and let everybody know kind of what the experience is like. So, which ship was it that you first went on?
Oh, it was Norwegian Bliss.
Ah, what a great one. I love the
Mhm.
Bliss.
It was so great. I mean, talk about being spoiled. So
Yeah,
before that, I hadn't really done the whole cruise thing. Not I wasn't opposed to it by any means, but it was just more of like, eh, yeah, at some point. And then it was like, who did I didn't really have anybody in my immediate circle that was like, oh yeah, I'm an avid cruiser. So I just never really had the opportunity. And then that opportunity presented itself, and I'm like, heck yeah, I'll go on a cruise ship. And it was fascinating,
yeah.
especially as like a hotel person, and I
Hmm.
understand like how everything works, and then to see, because they're obviously like massive hotels on the water in
Exactly
essence,
right.
so it's such a cool experience to get to see and put together. And yeah, I immediately, as soon as I finished that cruise, I was like, okay, done. I will always, I am a cruiser now.
There you
I
go.
have been converted.
Yeah, I think that happens to a lot of folks. They don't know what to expect or they hear it and they're like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And then
Yeah.
when you experience everything that you can do on a cruise ship, it really is
Mhm.
mind blowing because you can do so much in such a short amount of time and you can make the vacation whatever you want it to be. So I'd love to find out for you what maybe surprised you from that experience that you maybe weren't necessarily expecting.
Oh gosh. I think it was like the amount of things that you can do on the ship.
Yeah,
Because in my mind, it's
sure.
like, oh, what? Before that, I just thought of cruising as in like, oh, you just go and you eat a lot and then you like hang out by the pool. And I'm like, I think that would get really boring after some time. But then
Exactly.
once I was, especially like Bliss, where you had all these different activities from, the go karts to they had laser tag and just there's and I mean also the food is fantastic. You can't talk about it without mentioning the food, but that's certainly like a huge component. And it just the whole experience, like I got it. And I actually liked like how you would meet people and the different activities that you could do. It was also great because even though I was traveling with somebody, it would be like, okay, cool, I'm going to go do this. I'll see you later. As opposed to maybe if you might be at a different destination, you'd be like, oh, hey, hold on. Do we need to coordinate more? This, you could really go off and do your own thing and not worry too much as well. But thoroughly impressed by the experience on Bliss. And I mean, again, as I said, definitely converted for sure.
Yeah, well, it's so easy for that to happen to so many folks, especially when you have so much going on a cruise ship, as you mentioned, and then you really kind of lucked out because you've got the best of the best at that point in time with the Bliss, right? So you got to
Yeah.
experience so much in such a short amount of time, and then obviously you're going to be hooked with that great experience. So from the Bliss, you did you go to the Joy next?
It was Bliss, Joy, and then Encore.
Encore, yeah.
Encore.
What did you think
And
of
then
the Encore?
and then we'll come back to which and then in the middle of that I ended up doing celebrity cruises as well too. But
Oh yeah, we got to talk about that. Yeah.
Encore was great. I mean, again, um, and also part of it that was kind of special is that was the first time that my mother got to come with me.
Oh, that's
So
awesome. What a
that
great
also made
experience.
it a really good experience. Plus, that
Yeah.
we got to go to their island. What is it? Great Stirrup Cay, right?
Oh,
Great Stirrup.
yeah. Yeah, Great
Yeah.
Stirrup Cay. Was it in did you go out of Miami?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so it
Yeah.
was Great Stirrup Cay.
And that was cool too because
Yeah.
I hadn't ever experienced that through Norwegian before. So all in all, it just was like I'm like, please sign me up. I will go back anytime.
Exactly. Yeah, it's such an awesome experience, and then the private island is awesome because it's kind of a controlled environment where you get to eat and just get some great beach time. And they've done such a nice job. They've spent millions of dollars on these
Yeah.
islands, really fixing it up and making it such a great experience. So you mentioned celebrity. I'd love to hear about your experience there because you had mentioned we were talking a little bit earlier of how the experience is different, and I've never experienced a celebrity cruise line. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I actually got to go on Celebrity Edge, which was really great because prior to that, I mean, you could say I've definitely done my fair share of Norwegian cruises.
Hmm.
And what's so nice is that, like, there's a certain feel to them as well too. So like
Sure.
you kind of get to know what to expect. And Celebrity has a very different feel. So, you're not necessarily, it's not the type of environment that you're not doing like go-kart racing,
Right.
there's no laser tag. And it's definitely geared, I think, more towards adults. It
Hmm.
might even be that they don't even do kids. I don't know that policy actually off the top of my head, but it really is more towards adults, a bit more of that sophisticated feeling. And it was a focus on design. So
Got it.
everything was so like it looked cool, it felt cool. They had great music everywhere that again was like a little bit like more of a sophisticated feel to it. And
Right.
all these little like nooks and places that you could go and just like, whoever you're traveling with, you could like grab a cocktail and go find a corner somewhere and just catch up or spend some time with them. So and then also their dining experiences were really really good. Um and yeah, like all in all, I was very impressed with the whole experience. And of course that's the one that has the it's the, what is that called?
Oh, the rising
It
platform. I always forget
Yeah,
too.
exactly, I forget
But
the
I know what you're
exact name because
talking
I had.
about.
Exactly. And that was kind of cool to see how they would move it at different times of the day. But then they also went through this whole explanation of how that was designed. And it's designed in a way that it like balances out with the ship, which is just,
Huh.
for me, it's very fascinating because
Sure.
it's more than just the experience, but it's like I always want to know how things work.
Yeah,
And that
especially
was
when
great.
it's innovative, right? Because that's a first for the cruise industry. Nobody else has done that.
Yeah, and it was great. And those, the cabins were lovely, luxurious. It really, all in all, another fantastic experience.
That's super cool. So, are you planning any cruises in the future? Have you
Uh, oh,
thought of what you're going to do
yes.
next?
I don't know what at this point. Was actually looking on exploring Virgin Voyages,
Okay, very
so
cool.
was actually tapped to go on a cruise with them this year. But obviously, everything has been pushed back and
Right.
continues to be pushed back at this point. And now we don't know when things are happening because obviously the CDC is recommending a no sail until February of 2021. The White House is saying let's go on a month by month basis. So there's a lot up in the air as far as within the United States. Um, Europe aside, and that's a whole other thing. Then it's like
Yeah,
we would have to figure out even how to get to Europe.
exactly.
So like it's a little bit of a crazy time, but
Yeah.
as soon as if they were kind of deemed in the clear, yeah, I'd absolutely go on a cruise.
Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, I read I think this morning that Norwegian has voluntarily pushed back their sailings until November 30th. So I was really
Okay.
kind of hoping that they would be back in November because obviously it's going to take a little while to, no pun intended, but test the waters and make sure they
Yeah.
get everything right before they get full up to speed and kind of things get back up to normal, right? So I was really hoping November would happen. I have a cruise booked in February, but I have my fingers
Mhm.
crossed. I'm like, oh, it's still far enough out that there's still a chance.
Right.
But
I'm
every week
hoping.
yeah, exactly. Every week is just
Oh,
kind of like you just never know what you're gonna get. So,
no,
um,
you don't. And it's really, I think at this point, I mean, I look. Hey, if I had the option to go next week, I'd be totally down for it. But at
me
the end
too.
of the day, at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a really interesting time between now and the end of the year.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm always one for encouraging people to travel now and to travel smart, just
Hmm.
considering why you're traveling and what you're doing. I mean, that's a lot of what I talk about on my platforms. But at the same time, it's like the reality of it is like are things a wash until next year? And I hate to even say that, but
I
it's like,
know.
what is the reality? Are things going to open up right before the holidays? Is that a smart move?
Who
We
knows?
don't know.
And that's just it. We
Exactly.
don't know. It'd be great if we could say, well, by X amount of time, it'll definitely be better, but we don't because we keep getting closer to that X amount of time and we're
I
still kind
know.
of, unfortunately, where we are. But I'd love to learn a little bit more about what you have going on in terms of your concierge business and everything that you've been able to pivot since the crazy pandemic hit. Obviously,
Mm.
you're traveling significantly less as we all are. But let's
Yes.
chat about everything that you kind of have going on right now because I mentioned to you earlier, Instagram stuff is fantastic. And you've done such an
Thank you.
amazing job of creating this content. So I just love to learn more about what you have going on.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. So, I mean, again, bit of my backstory is that I was actually working at a hotel. So I didn't work there very often, but I still had my foot in the door at a hotel. So the pandemic hit. And of course, everything came to a screeching halt. So, as far as when it comes to like the hospitality industry and watching hotels have to close their doors,
Hmm.
watching people have to get furloughed, watching people having to be let go, it wasn't just watching from the outside perspective. Like this was these were my friends and colleagues that I was seeing this happen to, and it's like, okay, well, I'm obviously a bit a part of that. But then, as far as having an online platform, I'm like, what can I do with this, and what can I do with this time? Because as I'd mentioned to you before this when we were talking, I'm like, if I just sit here and just post about how much I miss travel, I have a feeling that's going to get old really quick.
Yeah.
And more so it's like, how can we be constructive in this time? Like we can sit here and say, oh, we miss travel, we miss travel, we miss travel. That's cute. But like, how can we have something a little bit more? So, in those first couple of weeks, as like everybody was like shutting down, I was watching like what was happening as far as like in the social media landscape. And
Hmm.
this is something that I do quite a bit when it comes to creating content is I see what's out there and I see what people are doing and I see, okay, well, what resonates with me and or where might there be gaps? And there was one place that I saw that was a huge gap is nobody was talking about like bringing to life the actual stories of the travel industry. Is like, yes, we could read about it, we might get like news updates about it, but like having somebody really focus on it. So that's when I decided to I do them twice a week. I do travel industry updates. And again, my whole point of that is there's so much that we can't control right now, but if we
Right.
take the time to educate ourselves, it can give us a little bit of substance and maybe and certainly give us hope, but help us pave the way to the future, and like what the future. So
Sure.
as we stay informed, we'll just be better educated as we move forward. So that's really been a huge pivot for me. And it's been really exciting because it's opened a lot of doors. I mean, my podcast has grown. I'm on other people's podcasts regularly, sharing, updates and all of that. So it's been a very, as much as it's been very challenging,
Sure.
also a really exciting time because it's just been this shift. And it's like, okay, well, what can we do from
Right.
our own four walls and make it interesting and still
Yeah.
within the realm of travel?
Yeah.
So,
And that's just it. And, it's great to see that you have that kind of optimism to think to yourself, okay, we're in the situation. How can we make the most of it and the best of it? And it seems like you're certainly capitalizing on that, which makes perfect sense. And that's really kind of what separates the people who are winning right now from those who are kind of still spinning their wheels. We have to figure
oh,
out a way to adapt and a way to kind of reinvent ourselves so that under any circumstance, we can continue to flourish. And thank goodness we have this technology that we live in right now, right? Where we can do all this type of stuff. It's
totally. We are lucky in that regards. And that's, by the way, not to say that it hasn't been easy. I mean, certainly if you are going through this and you are in a big city and, it's hard if you have a family and you've got to be in balancing all of that. It's hard if you're single. It's hard
mm-hmm.
if you lost a job. It's hard if you now have to be as productive at home. I mean, so many factors are going into this. It's a just challenging time all
Yep.
around. So it's for me, it's like, okay, well, how do we focus on like what we can control, but then also just doing the best that we can while still being kind on ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. There's that balance there that I think we're all still trying to find, and we're gonna do the best we can with what we've got. So, and it certainly sounds like you're doing that, which is pretty awesome. And I'd love to hear too about your contributions to Good Day LA. What do you do with them? How do you contribute?
Yeah, no, I mean, they have me come on as a travel expert. So I come on, do various segments at times, whether it's talking about travel in general. So, as for example, like what we can expect right now in the industry, but then also being a concierge in Los Angeles. I've even done things to do in LA. So, for example, I was on right before Valentine's Day with last minute Valentine's Day ideas as well. So, just continuing to provide that concierge service in different areas.
Well, let's talk about that. I'd love if you can share some of your best tips and tricks, whether it be Los Angeles or maybe some other places that you absolutely love. Can you give us some nuggets here that we can take with us and perhaps start planning for the future?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk, goodness, well, we could talk about Los Angeles because it's so many nuances, and it
Yeah,
just all depends
such a
on.
great place.
It's such a great place, and I think that it's also a little bit. Uh, mm, People don't always see like the real side of LA. They see the glitz and the glamour and this
Right.
Hollywood side,
Hmm.
arguably maybe even the superficial side, but there's so much like character and diversity and you know forward thinking. I mean, it is really an exciting city to live in, and I still like to say, I'm like, okay, a good bit of pop culture comes from here. That's
Hmm.
pretty cool to live around. So there's definitely a lot of things to do in and around the city. But as far as like, I can even just go over some like general sort of travel tips, but
That'd be great.
one of mine is always, and this might sound silly, but is always to book direct, and that's been a huge thing. And it's talking about like, but or use a travel agent because a travel agent, in essence, is your
Right.
liaison to help you book direct. And I
Sure.
say that as opposed to using third parties. And my whole thing with that is you by booking direct or using a travel agent, you start an immediate relationship with the hotel or the airline, even the tour company that you might be looking to book with, and that always will benefit you. Versus if you do something like an online travel agency, should there be a case that you have to cancel, or as many people saw earlier this year who had booked their flights or even hotels or even packages through third party online sites,
Hmm.
they were now being faced with like double cancellation policies. So they
Right.
were being not only the actual company, but then like for the OTA, the online travel agent. So that's why I would just always say, book direct. You can also kind of like increase your chances of getting an upgrade. That's the one thing that I also
Sure.
always talk about is, you want to call, let them know, especially in the world of hotels, which is
Hmm.
my world. Give a call ahead of time. Let them know why you're coming. I mean, the thing about hotels and hospitality is that they want to help make those memorable
Sure.
moments.
Right.
So if you're right, so
It makes
but
perfect
like
sense.
help them help you. if they
Right.
if they don't know it's your anniversary, they can't do that special thing. So if it's an anniversary, a birthday, a graduation, maybe it's your first time traveling in 6 months, whatever it is.
You never
We are
know.
seeing but if you share that with them, they're more than, and if you're nice, and you can also be very direct and be like, hey, if you guys happen to have the room, I would love an upgrade. And
Why
I'd
not?
love a room on a higher floor. I'd love a balcony on my room, whatever it is. And if you share that and you're nice about it, you're pretty likely to get that upgrade. So, I mean, no guarantees, but it's amazing just by starting a relationship with the actual, for example, in this case, like a hotel,
Hmm.
that things like might come around for you. So that's one thing that I always love to talk about, just because I think so many people are like, how do I get an upgrade? Or,
Great point.
and they kind of try to fight their way for it. But it's like, yeah, if you're kind of nice, it's amazing what you can
It's
get.
amazing.
Even if
Yeah,
it's a
that
free
that's
bottle of
life in
champagne.
general though, isn't it? Just be nice. Good things will
So
happen to you if you're nice. That's just the bottom line. Quick
100.
question about that regarding travel agents. So is it similar to, I know cruise travel agents, travel agencies that work with the cruise industry, you're not paying them. They get
Correct.
compensated through the cruise line. So is it the same exact way when you're booking other things?
Yes, yeah, it definitely is the same way when you're booking other things, whether it's flights or hotels. So, but again, it's like they're kind of there to help just make it easier for you.
Hmm.
Like if you
Yeah.
don't want to sit there and do the research, if you've never been there before. Also, actually, a big perk of booking through a travel agent is many times that you can get access to different amenities. So,
Right.
they can go to a hotel, and next thing you know, if they happen to have a special relationship, next thing you know, you can get virtuoso amenities. So maybe that entitles you to an earlier check-in or a late checkout or an upgrade if it's available, food and beverage credit, whatever it is. So that's why, when people too often are like, oh, I don't need a travel agent, it's like, yeah, but you can get a lot of perks by booking with a travel agent. So
Yeah.
it's definitely something. And I like to say actually right now is that there's sort of this resurgence of the travel agents
Good
because
point. Yeah.
so many people are like, wait, what's happening? Like moving forward, like
Hmm.
they want to have that peace of mind to have somebody help navigate this new travel world that we're in. And so I definitely foresee a lot more people using travel agents in the future.
Yeah, it's a great point, and it's also somebody who can lend their expertise. Maybe they've been to that destination. If it's like a cruise agent, they can obviously tell you, "Hey, here are great restaurants. Here are great things to do on the ship. Here are great ports. If you want
Yeah.
to do this, do that on this particular port." So I think a lot of people are intimidated because they don't realize that. Again, you're not paying the travel agent; they get compensated through whomever they're working with, and then also they may get perks. So in the cruise industry, their particular agency might get a special discount because they booked a certain slot of cabins, or
Yeah.
they might have onboard credit that they can give you. So I would imagine it's pretty similar with other travel
Completely.
agents, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely similar. And I think another thing as well too is especially for families traveling. I think travel agents are so useful because first of all, it's a lot to travel with a family, and it's
Right.
it's a great experience, and it's totally worthwhile to have all of these special memories and to make these experiences happen. But having a travel agent will just adds to the experience just because it helps think of maybe things that you might not think about.
Sure.
But certainly, if they've also experienced it as well, then they can be like, this might not be the most ideal for a family with like a 10 and a 12-year-old, but you know what? This would be because they have XYZ. So it's again tapping into that expert knowledge so that you can just make the best decisions possible to have the best travel experience possible.
Absolutely. So those are some great tips. So we only have a couple minutes left, and I just wanted to kind of ask you. So what's next? I know that you mentioned that you've got a book that you're currently working on. I'd love if you could tell us a little bit about that. Everything else that you kind of have going on, and then obviously just let us know. We have it on the screen, but if you can tell us where we can follow you on social to continue following all your great adventures.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am working on a book. So this has been something that I've wanted to do for quite some time, but I wanted it to be the right book at the right time and just have it make sense. And I always kind of had wrestled with the idea. I was like, okay, what's it going to be? And I'm actually doing a hospitality book. And
Great.
so I'm finishing that up, but it'll also have some really lovely stories from other people in the industry as well too, because just I think as with any sort of in hospitality environment, it is like it takes a village, as they say, and so everybody has all these moving parts, and to properly reflect that village, we all have these interesting stories. So I didn't want it to just be my stories just through my lens, but to share the experiences of so many others. So I'm going to have some of those nuggets in it, and just kind of tips and tricks on how to just kind of raise the hospitality standards that I think is not just applicable to hotels and restaurants and that sort of thing, but even just other businesses that are just looking to brush up on their service, so to speak. I think that they can take some nuggets away from that. So working on finishing that up, and hopefully that should be out in December, which will be here before
Very
we know
cool.
it.
Wow. Yeah, it's right
Yeah,
around the corner. It's insane, right? How quickly time flies.
I
Which
think
right
it's
now
still
is
April.
actually a good thing. It does.
Yeah.
It's such a
All right.
blur. But yeah, I think we
Good.
do need time to pass this a little bit quicker nowadays anyway, right? So looking forward to
Yes,
that.
definitely.
Great. Well,
Definitely.
listen, Sarah, I want to thank you so much for coming aboard Wrestling with Cruises. This was a lot of fun. It was great to reconnect with you, and so happy to hear all the awesome things that you've got going on. So make sure everybody to check Sarah out on social media. So is it Ask a Concierge on all platforms?
Oh, yeah, Ask a Concierge across the board, which is Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube as well too, and I'm also on LinkedIn. I do actually do a little bit more hospitality and travel geared content on LinkedIn as well. So have a podcast there and hop on other podcasts as well. So and there I'm Sarah Dandishi. So you can find me anywhere, and then of course my website askaconcierge.tv.
Fantastic. We'll make sure to check those out. So thanks again. Looking forward to reconnecting. Hopefully, we'll be on another inaugural before you know it, and
Yeah,
we can
I would love
continue to catch up. So thank you, and thanks everybody out there for watching. Really appreciate it. Make sure you tune in next week, where we'll continue the great cruise conversation. But it's time to disembark right now. Have a great week, everybody. Look forward to checking you guys out again next week, right here on Wrestling with Cruises. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.